We're reading Shōbōgenzō, Chapter 5, Jū-undō-shiki, Rules for the Hall of Heavy Cloud. Jū-undō, or the Hall of Heavy Cloud, was the name of the Zazen Hall of Kannon-dori Kosho Horinji Temple. Shiki means rules, so Jū-undō-shiki means rules for the Hall of Heavy Cloud. Kannon-dori Kosho Horinji Temple was the first temple established by Master Dōgen. He built it in Kyoto Prefecture in 1233, several years after coming back from China. Jū-undō was the first Zazen hall to be built in Japan. Master Dōgen made these rules for the hall and titled them. The chapter was not included in Shōbōgenzō when the 75 chapter edition was compiled, but was added when the 95 chapter edition was compiled at the end of the 17th century. The inclusion of this chapter is very useful in understanding Shōbōgenzō because what is written here represents in a concrete way Master Dōgen's sincere attitude in pursuing the truth. People who have the will to the truth and who discard fame and gain may enter. We should not randomly admit those who might be insincere. If someone is admitted by mistake, we should, after consideration, make them leave. Remember, when the will to the truth has secretly arisen, fame and gain evaporate at once. Generally, in all the great thousand-fold world, there are very few examples of the right and traditional transmission. In our country, this will be seen as the original source. Feeling compassion for future ages, we should value the present. The members of the hall should harmonize like milk and water and should wholeheartedly promote each other's practice of the truth. Now we are for the present as guests and hosts, but in future we will be forever Buddhist patriarchs. So now that each of us is meeting what is hard to meet and is practicing what is hard to practice, we must not lose our sincerity. This sincerity is called the body and mind of the Buddhist patriarchs. It inevitably becomes Buddha and becomes a patriarch. We have already left our families and left our hometowns. We rely on clouds and rely on waters. The benevolence of the members of this Sangha in promoting each other's health and in promoting each other's practice surpasses even that of father and mother. A father and mother are only parents for the short span between life and death, but the members of the Sangha will be friends in the Buddha's truth forever. We should not be fond of going out. If absolutely necessary, once in 1 month is permissible. People of old lived in distant mountains or practiced in remote forests. They not only had few human dealings, but also totally discarded myriad involvements. We should learn their state of mind in shrouding their light and covering their tracks. Now is just the time to practice as if to put out a fire on our heads. How could we not regret idly devoting this time to worldly involvements? How could we not regret this? It is hard to rely on what has no constancy, and we never know where, on the grass by the path, our dewdrop life will fall. To waste this time would be truly pitiful. While we are in the hall, we should not read the words of even Zen texts. In the hall, we should realize the principles and pursue the state of truth. When we are before a bright window, we can enlighten the mind with the teachings of the ancients. Do not waste a moment of time. Single-mindedly make effort. We should make it a general rule to inform the leader of the hall where we are going, whether it is night or day. Do not ramble around at will. That might infringe the discipline of the Sangha. We never know when this life will finish. If life were to end during an idle excursion, that would certainly be something to regret afterwards. We should not strike other people for their mistakes. We should not look on people's mistakes with hatred. In the words of an ancient, when we do not see others' wrongness or our own rightness, we are naturally respected by seniors and admired by juniors. At the same time, we should not imitate the wrongs of others. We should practice our own virtue. The Buddha prevented wrongdoing, but not out of hatred. Any task, big or small, we should do only after informing the leader of the hall. People who do things without informing the leader of the hall should be expelled from the hall. When formalities between members and leaders are disrupted, it is hard to tell right from wrong. In and around the hall, we should not raise the voice or gather heads to converse. The leader of the hall should stop this. In the hall, we should not practice ceremonial walking. In the hall, we should not hold counting beads, and we should not come and go with the heads hanging down. In the hall, we should not chant or read sutras. If a donor requests the reading of a sutra by the whole order, then it is permissible. In the hall, we should not loudly blow the nose or loudly hack and spit. We should regret the fact that our moral behaviour is still so imperfect, and we should begrudge the fact that time is stealing away, robbing us of life with which to practice the truth. It might be natural for us to have minds like fish in a dwindling stream. Members of the Sangha should not wear brocade. We should wear clothes of paper, cotton, and so forth. Since ancient times, all the people who clarified the truth have been like this. Do not come into the hall drunk. If someone forgetfully enters by mistake, they should do prostrations and confess. Also, alcohol should not be brought into the hall. Do not enter the hall flushed and inebriated. If two people quarrel, both should be sent back to their quarters, because they not only hinder their own practice of the truth, but also hinder others. Those who see the quarrel coming, but do not prevent it, are equally at fault. Anyone who is indifferent towards the instructions for life in the hall should be expelled by the common consent of all members. Anyone whose mind is in sympathy with the transgression is also at fault. Do not disturb the other members by inviting guests, whether monks or lay people, into the hall. When talking with guests in the vicinity of the hall, do not raise the voice. Do not deliberately boast about your own training, greedily hoping for offerings. A guest who has long had the will to participate in practice and who is determined to tour the hall and do prostrations may enter. In this case, the leader of the hall must be informed. Zazen should be practiced as in the monks' halls of China. Never be even slightly lazy in attending and requesting formal and informal teaching morning and evening. During the midday meal and morning gruel, a person who drops the accessories for the patra on the ground should be penalized, according to the monastery rules. In general, we should staunchly guard the prohibitions and precepts of the Buddhist patriarchs. The pure criteria of monasteries should be engraved on our bones and should be engraved on our minds. We should pray that our whole life will be peaceful and that our pursuit of the truth will abide in the state without intent. These few rules listed above are the body and mind of eternal Buddhas. We should revere them and follow them. The 25th day of the 4th lunar month in the 2nd year of Rikinin, set forth by the founder of Kannon-dori Kosho Gokoro-ji Temple, Shramana Dōgen.